Yes, ma'am.
So you all in different iterations said that the speaker is trying to cover up what happened on January 6th, but she didn't say the election was stolen. She didn't call her supporters here to the Capitol. So what role are you trying to cover up what the former president's role was on January 6th?
Nothing. We're not predetermining any questions. We'd like to be on the committee to ask them. You've got a committee chair that questioned the election of George Bush. You've got a committee chair of this who was suing the president. You've got a committee chair of this who believes Republican senators are equal to terrorists and they should be on the terrorist watch list. You've got a member of Raskin who, before the president was even sworn in, said he should be impeached, who questioned the election before and objected to electors there. You've got an Adam Schiff who we know is playing nothing but politics, lied to the American public that he had proof, took this country through an unbelievable false impeachment to find out that he lied to us. And the idea that she thinks these predetermined people will protect her, I think it should start off with everybody should be able to ask the questions. Let's get to the bottom of this. This should never happen again. When the Kavanaugh hearings took place, there was a break in the line of the Capitol Police. They are the majority party. Why didn't they take from that to be prepared for any other time coming forward? You've got a House administration that oversees a great deal of this. You had a chairman of that committee that had not been to Washington since May. You had IG reports that told you you were ill-prepared, the Capitol Police. Why would you damage the men and women that we've watched time and again put their life on the line? To go into the line of fire, you have Steve Scalise, Rodney Davis here that was on that baseball field. Why wouldn't we make that commitment to them? You have Rodney Davis who offered legislation as the ranking member in the minority that the majority would never bring up, even though the IG reports and others said it needed. Are those questions going to be asked? Are we going to be back at this situation again in the future? Two questions for this entire committee should be, why were we so ill-prepared for that day? And how can we make sure this never happens again? And that's what should drive the committee. There may be buildup before that day that you're going to have to investigate. Speaker Pelosi worked 6 months trying to make sure that would never happen. We had an officer killed on Good Friday, just across here, based upon, if you listen to who made the killing of buying the knife and go out, it was politically motivated, but we're not going to investigate that. You have the FBI doing investigations. You want to make sure nothing in this committee gets in the way of that. You have an architect of the Capitol that has been appropriated $10 million to make sure this is better prepared. Why wouldn't we then ask the tough questions and make sure the Capitol Police have the resources, the training, and the equipment? That is what's being withheld, and that's what we complain about.
Leader McConnell,
yes.
the majority leader at the time,
A week after the insurrection, you said that Trump was partly responsible for what happened. Do you still stand by that?
I think from a standpoint, I'm looking at all the investigation as we go forward. I would have liked a response faster. Having known what I know today, that you just listened to Rodney Davis. Why would a sergeant of arms, when you have an insurrection going on, or protest out here, you got a line being broken, and you're the sergeant of arms, why would your first response be, I got to send a note to the speaker to see if it's okay if I can do my job to protect the men and women on the line? Why would that be your first reaction? Why? I don't think any of us knew that. Do you realize that the sergeant of arms, as being being the leader of the Republicans, never talked to me prior coming up to the 16th, even though they knew on December 14th? How many meetings did they have with the Speaker's office for the preparation? He never passed me a note that day. I would tell you, bring the National Guard. There are people out there who say there were phone calls to the Speaker that offered the National Guard prior to that day and was turned down. And being turned down, and you have to ask the Speaker on the day of what was going on? Why wouldn't you do your job? Why would you feel that in your job you couldn't make the decision? You were the officer. We have a sheriff for more than 30 years. I promise you this. In his capacity when he was sheriff, he did not think he had to call an elected official for anything for law enforcement that was going on. He knew his men and women were out there, and he needed to defend them. and he wanted to make sure they were prepared. That's why we want people and questions like that asked. Yes.
Leader McCarthy, a lot of people, Representative Armstrong said that by not allowing Jim Banks or Jim Jordan on the committee, they're silencing millions of Americans. But aren't by pulling all of your members from the committee, aren't you silencing, preventing those real legitimate questions from being asked? And
No.
even if you think that the Democrats are being honest from counteracting some of those things.
No. What you want is, the one thing we have in our government, you don't get 100% of what you want. You have to find compromise. This is the only situation in the history of a select committee by a speaker to try to predetermine what could be asked and what the results could take place. She has fought this for 6 months. At the same time of those 6 months, 2 committees in the Senate, bipartisan, has done an investigation. And then when we came to this solution, partisan-based, and we offered no subpoena power, 5 members, never in the history of Congress has this taken place. Why? Why would that take place? And I think from the perspective, you've got a ranking member of the Judiciary Committee that could have oversight to part of this. You've got Jim Banks running the largest caucus inside the conference, served our nation in Afghanistan in the Navy, and she questions the outcome of that. When you've got a committee chair that objected to the election of George Bush, that believes Republican senators should be on the terrorist watch list, was actually suing President Trump at the time. What we're objecting to is that we're not going to find the solutions. We want to find the solutions that this would never happen again. That's all we've asked for. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Question McConnell's role. He appointed